Welcome to another Gonzaga Nation SI game preview with the opponent's radio play-by-play guy. Today's Pepperdine's longtime radio play-by-play man, Al Epstein. Al, thanks for joining. As far as we know now, the game on Saturday is good to go. Who knows? It may change.
Well, it is. It is changing day to day. I think for every school in the league, and the fact that over the last week and a half, every game has been postponed. I don't think it's a real big concern at this point in time. But as we go further into the season, another week or two, it could become a concern, and some games may have to be canceled and unable to be made up. So right now, I think we're good. Games are being rescheduled right now, I know, for Pepperdine and hopefully Gonzaga and everybody else. But as of right now, everything's good to go. So.
Yeah, fingers crossed, game's good to go. I know there's lots of conversations across the league about trying to maybe change some protocols as far as length of time, but those are questions above my pay grade. I don't want to get too far deep into those. But when you look at the non-conference set for Pepperdine, 6-9 going into the conference. First game against Pacific was postponed. For a Gonzaga fan who hasn't seen Pepperdine play this year, what can they expect?
Well, I think it's a much better team than the people and the record shows. It's a very young team. There are times when they have three true freshmen on the court. They're extremely talented. A couple of those players are four-star recruits. I think of Mike Mitchell Jr. He reminds me a lot of Kobe Ross, who had a great career at Pepperdine, maybe a little taller, maybe a little bit quicker. He was leading the league in assists, I think, for quite a long time, over 5 a game. So he's very talented. Houston Millett is a 6'5" guard, another true freshman, maybe the best shooter in this league. I mean, he's that good. He's like third or fourth in the league in three-point field goals. And then Max Lewis, who missed the first 5 games, 6'7", very athletic player, just went for 27 points and 9 rebounds in his last game. So when you have 3 true freshmen, it takes time for them to develop. It is a work in progress. They have won 4 of the last 5 games, and they're averaging better than 80 points a game in that 5-game stretch. Overall in the season, only 68 points a game. But again, as each game has gone on, they've gotten better and better. I think that this is a team to be reckoned with and may surprise a lot of schools during the course of the season.
When I look at Coach Lorenzo Romar teams over the course of his first stretch at Pepperdine, then St. Louis, UW, now back at Pepperdine, he's always wanted to play fast. He gets a lot of offense generated from their defense, but this year when I look at the numbers, they haven't shot the ball from the field as well as normal, and they've turned it over. Are those 2 pressing areas of concern that they're focused on?
I would think so. You know, when you have a young team like Pepperdine is, you have a tendency to shoot a little bit too quickly, and your shot selection is probably not the best. So when you have a lot of young shooters, like Pepperdine does, and all 3 of the players I mentioned, Max Lewis, Houston Millett, and Mike Mitchell Jr., they all carry pretty much the scoring load of this team. Obviously, Zedek is a very good shooter, but shot selection has a lot to do with it. But again, over the last 5 games, they have averaged better than 80 points a game, and that includes a game at Oregon, which was a really tough game, back and forth and a grind. So they have gotten better. I think when you play Pepperdine, to get them early this year would have been the best time because they are so young. But that's diminishing as they gain more and more experience.
You've mentioned a couple of young guys that you seem to be very high on. Obviously, Lorenzo Romar is as good a recruiter as they come on the West Coast and has a great eye for talent. But he's got to replace 2 really good players in Colby Ross and Kessler Edwards. Tell me what those guys meant to the program over the last few years.
Well, Kobe Ross may be as good a player as Pepperdine's had over the last 10 years. He's a once-in-a-10-year type guy. He broke or tied at least 30 records at Pepperdine. So career records, single game records, single season records, the all-time leading scorer. So he meant a lot. It was like having a coach on the court. So he did mean quite a bit to the program. Kessler Edwards now playing in the NBA, a 5-tool guy, maybe as good a player as we've had maybe also in the last 10 years because he did so many things. So that's a big void to try to replace, especially with a couple of true freshmen. But down the road, they are going to be really, really good. The freshmen that will replace those 2 players.
John Zedek is a guy that I think over the last couple of years when I've watched him play, I've been impressed with his confidence level. He will come in off the bench, doesn't hesitate to shoot it. He's had a couple nice games. Now he's becoming a focal point of the offense. Where has his biggest growth come?
Well, I think his maturity and experience, I think that's developed. He's got great size, 6'9", 240. His dad, George, of course, played at UCLA, won an NBA, won an NCAA championship back in 1995. He was 6'11". But Jan's ability to shoot the ball at 6'9", 240 and run the floor, I think separates him from a lot of different players, certainly in the West Coast Conference. Very difficult to guard on the perimeter. But what he's doing more and more, say hello to the little guy. Anyway, she wants to ask the question. She's more than welcome. So, but at 6'9", he's learning how to take the ball off the dribble, to post up on the block. So he has become more of an all-around player. Again, his shot selection sometimes a little quick, but overall he has really developed into really the go-to guy because of he's a junior. He's got more experience.
Last question now before I let you go, and this is something that every time I go to Pepperdine's campus, now I know this game is at the McCarthy Athletic Center in Spokane, but every time I go to Pepperdine's campus to call a game, I'm blown away by that view outside of Firestone Fieldhouse. Do you get that same feeling every time you pull up to campus?
Every time I go up there, and I've been doing it for 37 years, it's always like the first time. Like driving up the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, looking at the view and the Pacific Ocean. It really is a one-of-a-kind location. We also do baseball for them as well as soccer. And at the baseball stadium, it overlooks the Pacific Ocean with palm trees. If you didn't know better, you'd think you were in Hawaii. It's that nice. So yeah, it's a great feeling going up there. Assuming you don't have a traffic jam or anything else that goes on, or a mudslide or a fire. But overall, it's a great feeling going up to Malibu.
Well, Al, I appreciate the time. Fingers crossed that this game doesn't get postponed. Safe travels up to Spokane, and looking forward to tracking and following Pepperdine as they move into conference play and continue to improve. So thanks again for joining.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. It should be fun. Thanks.